what to expect from the upcoming housing correction. So let's get started.
Welcome to Conversations That Convert. Every week, we'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes tackling relevant lead generation, marketing, and sales topics for remodelers, home improvement companies, and home builders. Conversations That Convert is brought to you by Builder Lead Converter, your perfect sales assistant. And now, here's Rick and Diana.
Hey, welcome everyone to Conversations That Convert. Welcome, Diana.
Hi, hello everybody. Good to see you again and looking forward to see what wants to happen with this conversation. I'm so excited about the team and what to expect from the upcoming housing correction. And this is part one. And so we prepare for that.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is all about our series, A Builder's Guide to Recession Proofing Your Business. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to look at 3 key moves that a builder or remodeler can make to prepare for the impact of a recession on their local housing market. And so a couple of things here. Number one is even if we're in a nationwide recession, we still have to look at your individual local market because each market will perform differently. And it's going to affect both home builders and remodelers, but probably differently. It also depends on the type of homes you're building or the type of remodeling projects that you're doing. But all of this is based on Elon Musk's strategy for a recession, which is to predict, prepare for, and then persevere through a recession. So the last couple of sessions we looked at were giving you data, 6 data points that you can look to give you an idea, is your local housing market susceptible to a recession? This week now, we're going to move into preparing for that. So if you've done your homework, you're looking at what's going on locally, you'll say, hey, you know what? My local housing market is susceptible to recession. So now I need to know, what should I prepare for? I'll give you a quick anecdote here. Just this last week, looking at some data points and things that are happening here in the local market that I live in. We work with clients all over the country, but at least the local market that I live in, we're seeing a lot of price reductions in homes. We are seeing just had a client that actually had to reduce about 5% in order to get one home sold, where they had not done any price reductions for about 2 years. Have another client that has homes that are newly built for sale. They've reduced 10%, 10%, and they have not gotten a showing on these homes. And so we're going to talk about that here today. You know, some of these things that, what you can do to prepare for the recession and some specific action items. But I don't know, Diana, should we start with a review of the past 4 recessions and sort of look at their impact on what happened for housing?
Yes, let's go ahead. I'm so curious about the past and what's similar with this one, if you see some similarities or differences.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a look at the last 4. Let me get this off the screen. So the last 4 recessions happened starting in July 1990 through March 1991. Now, ironically, this is about when I started my career in housing. And this was about an 8-month recession. The gross domestic product, or GDP, declined about 1.5%, and then employment peaked at around 6.8%. It was a relatively mild recession, did not have much impact on housing. And by the way, if those of you that have been around for a long time, if you remember, interest rates were around 8-9% at that time. So they were quite a bit higher than today. But housing was used to it at that point. We didn't have these low interest rates, and we pretty much powered through it without a whole lot of issues as related to housing. Now, the next one was the dot bomb recession. So for those of you that are around in 2001, you remember 2 major things happened. One was we had the dot-com collapse, or the tech collapse within the stock market. The other one, of course, was 9/11, where we were attacked. Again, very, very mild recession, probably the most mild recession that we've seen in the last 4. GDP declined 0.3%, unemployment peaked at 5.5%. Again, not much effect in housing. And I remember when I was selling during that time, we actually did well. We did after 9/11, September 2001. We had growth during that time, so really didn't affect our local housing market. Then, of course, we have the granddaddy of them all, the one that we all remember, the Great Recession. Now, this was an 18-month recession. GDP declined 4.3%. Unemployment peaked at almost 10%, just under 10% or 9.5. A lot of markets, housing values went down 30%. I mean, things just dried up. This is where a lot of my home building clients said, hey, we got to start remodeling because no one's buying homes. A lot of remodelers said, get out of my lane, but it was a real challenge. And of course, a lot of builders went belly up at that point. Land is really the biggest culprit that actually pulled people down where they had poor land positions, couldn't get out of them, and they had to file bankruptcy. And then the last one was our self-induced. This was the government response to COVID recession. It only lasted 2 months, February 2020 through April 2020. The biggest, of course, issue there was unemployment went from 3.5 to 14.7%. However, by the end of 2021, it was back down to under 4. Obviously, these businesses that were forced to close were able to open up, and we went, of course, went through the rehiring process. But as far as GDP and all that, it really didn't affect that. What you need to understand is this: is the average length of recession since 1857 varies from length from 2 months to 5 years. The average recession is 17 months. The last 6 recessions since 1980 have lasted less than 10 months on average. So I think what we're looking at here, if you're going to prepare for a recession, what this tells us is that you should be prepared for a 10 to 17 month downturn in your local housing market. And not every market is going to come out of recessions evenly. In migration, a lot of people are moving around the country right now. That is going to dramatically affect if your local market is going to go into a recession and how long it will last. Those areas that have more people moving out than moving in are going to be more susceptible. They're going to have a longer period of where it's going to be slow. The areas where there's a lot of people moving into, it may be not even a blip on the radar for you. So again, the key point here is to understand where your current market is, and if you feel it's vulnerable, then we're going to take some action. Any thoughts, Diana?
Yeah, so it seems that you have to be the right person in the right place, and if you're not, just move with your business. Is that a possibility? Can you just go and move to another country where it's good business? I don't know. Just a thought. So, do you
You
follow
know,
the trend, or you
it's an interesting thought because I have had clients that have actually moved into new markets when one market has dried up, or they've got into new offerings when one offering has dried up. The classic example I gave you was during the Great Recession, where a lot of builders, there was nobody building homes, so they started remodeling homes. And then typically what happened at that point is that as soon as home building came back, they got out of remodeling, because a lot of them are like, I don't like remodeling. It's a lot, the remodeling is a completely different business model than home building for a multitude of reasons. But that's one idea. Yes, you can pick up and maybe move to and go after a new location that has more demand. Going into a different country is not real, is probably not real viable. Even changing states is very difficult because licensing and all that changes. But within the state that you're operating, if you find a market that you feel is underserved or has higher demand, yeah, that's definitely a viable business opportunity.
So what I'm hearing is to be flexible and adapt and adjust until this is going to end or move, and just listen to what the market wants, and then just serve that market.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen to what the market wants. Exactly. So let's talk about some preparation steps. If you
Yeah.
feel your local housing market is vulnerable, what can you do to prepare? All right. The first one is we want to reduce credit lines, pay off loans, and conserve cash. You've heard the term cash is king. In a
Yes.
recession, that is so true. Those that have the most cash will be able to also find the most opportunities, because when the market turns down, opportunities rise up. A lot of times there's more opportunities in a bad market than there is even in a good market. So let's take a look at what this looks like for reducing credit lines, paying off loans, and conserving cash. First of all, from a credit line reduction, if you remember 2007, the Great Recession, your low demand locations were the first to get hit and they were the last to recover. In fact, there still are many locations around the country that have not recovered fully from the Great Recession. Areas where there was too many lots developed, so many of those lots went back to the bank. There was a lot of foreclosure activity. It really brought the market down. It all goes back to supply. So what we want to do is we want to look at those poor locations, and we want to reduce our credit lines as relates to those locations. We want to pay off loans there. We want to conserve as much cash as possible. So I suggest is that you look at each location you're in and you put a rating on it. So you have an A plus location. That's the best. You have an A minus, B plus, B minus, so on and so forth. What you want to look at is that any location that you have rated that is a B minus or lower, that's where you want to focus on getting out of. And case in point, when I opened up the program here today and I talked about, reducing 5 and 10% to get stuff sold, those are in B minus or below locations. Those are the ones that are already we're seeing effects on. So number 2, we want to not chase the market down, but get in front of it. So let's look at low demand location and spec homes. So we need to reduce prices to get in front of the market. So Diana, when you jump in a lake, you got 2 ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
You can dip your toe in the water, ooh, and say it's cold, or you can just say, I'm going to go for it and jump in. So here we want to go for it and jump in. The biggest mistake that builders will make in moving inventory in these low demand markets is they'll be too slow to react to the marketplace. You can already see this with the publicly traded home builders. They are always the most aggressive to discount and move on from their product. So when you see those guys, they are offering incentives, discounts, promotions. That's too late because they're always the first out of the gate. So if you see that in your market, you need to get in front of it. So don't chase the market down, but get in front of it. Your days on market kill you because obviously it just costs you money. And it potentially is going to cost you opportunities. So here's a couple of thoughts. Number 1, if you have a spec home that's in a low demand market, do a CMA on it, a competitive market analysis, find out what the current market value is, and then go ahead and price it under that. Make it look like a screaming deal. Real quick, something that we just did is we had a home, single family home. It was priced at $580 in a market. We went and did a CMA on it. We saw that a lot of homes that were similar priced also had more square footage. So this was a climate where they had basements. So they had the ability to finish the basement. So we raised the price $20,000. We went up $20,000. We added a basement finish to it. That basement finish equated to about 1,000 square feet, an extra bedroom, and an extra bathroom. So we went from, let's say, a 2,600 square foot home to a 3,600 square foot home. We only went up $20,000. So we took and we dollar cost averaged our price per square foot. We reduced our overall price per square foot to make us look like a great value. We sat there for 2 weeks. Now, Diana, can you guess how many showings we got after 2 weeks?
0. I don't know.
0 is right. We got none. The market did not like that. So then we said, okay, we can't go up and improve the home. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go down and discount the home. So at that point, we pulled the basement out because it was just on paper anyway. We reduced the price from $600 to $570. So it looked like a $30,000 price reduction. Now I'll ask you another question. Did a $30,000 price reduction, did that generate a showing? What do you think?
Well, I guess not.
Oh,
right?
We did. We got one. We
Okay.
got one showing, and that one showing turned into an offer of which we were able to negotiate out a sale. So
That's
that home that we had at 580, it netted the sale at 553. So that was about 4.6% dip that we had to take. I would call that location a probably C plus location. So that was 5% right there. The lower grade the location, the bigger hit you're going to have to take. So we got in front of it. So that $30,000 price reduction caught the eye of a buyer. They came in, they smelled blood in the water, said, okay, I'm going to pounce. And, their first offer, it was not good, but it wasn't horrible. We were able to work with it and we got the deal done. So that's that's an idea on CMAs and spec homes, is get under the market, look at the market value, and then go under. Okay, the next thing to look at is absorption rates and inventory levels. And we talked about this in our Predict program. You have to understand how many homes are selling in your local market area and how many homes are for sale. And then understand how many months of inventory you have. Again, that balanced market is right around 5.5, 6 months balanced market. Now, ironically, most locations, even the subpar ones, still have less than a 6-month supply of homes, but it's rising quickly. You do not want to wait till it gets above 6 months. You want to still sell when it's well below 6 months. The last thing that I would look at is if you own land or lots in subpar locations, is that if you have had those lots as closed, in other words, you will only sell the lot if you build on it, open them up. Open them up to anyone else. Other builders can buy it, sell them directly to a consumer, let them pick whatever builder they want, but open them up to get away from them. Any other thoughts, Diana?
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea to just jump in the water and then just be brave and take responsibility for what wants to happen and what's possible and achievable in those times.
That's so true about being brave, because we started out our price reductions in our homes. We started out a $5,000 price reduction,
Yeah.
$5,000 price reduction, and then we started looking at what the nationals were doing, and like they were doing 10, they were doing 20. So it's like
Yeah.
they were they were jumping in that water. We were dipping our toe in that water. So we learned the hard way. It's like, yeah, we $30,000 price reduction. Even though it wasn't a $30,000 price reduction. It was really only a 10. It got someone's attention because it looked like we were under the market at that point, and they were ready to pounce. Okay, prepare move number 3 is reducing overhead. I want to talk specifically about employees. A mentor of mine taught me many years ago is that there are 3 types of employees. So type number 1 is your top performers. This is typically the top 25% of your employees. Now, with that being said, the top 25%, they're accountable, they're self-motivated, they're driven, they're very good at their jobs. You don't have to do much for them. You support them as an owner or manager, you get out of their way. Then you have the middle 50% of employees. So that middle 50 are people that you're coaching, you're investing into training, you're trying to move them up to the top 25%. And then the third type of category is the bottom 25%. These are people that have consistently failed to meet the minimum expectation levels, and you know who they are. These are the folks that you're like, you know what? I like them, but they just continue to make the same mistake over and over again. And no matter how much I coach them, no matter how much I train them, they just don't get it. These are the people right now that you want to let go. And here's the mentality of letting somebody go. Nobody wants to fire somebody because they don't want to be the bad guy. You let them de-hire themselves. As long as you have set a clear expectations of what the minimum level of performance is for this position, as long as you have set that and you've clearly communicated it, they de-hire themselves. You're not firing them. They're just telling you that they, for whatever reason, they cannot meet those minimum level expectations. And then it's time to set them free, because a lot of times they're not in the right job either. They're not the right person, for you. They're not in the right seat on the bus, but they're also not the right job, not the right person for the job. So set them free. Get ahead of this. Don't wait for things to come, to where it really slows down. We're already in the second half of the year here. Things are just going to get slower from here on out. So you don't want to get into that long, cold winter where your overhead and your payroll is really dragging you down. Any other thoughts, Diana?
Yeah, I think so basically you want to reduce statistically 25%. So like everyone is trying to do right now, and you have to just see who is the best fit for the job, and then
Absolutely.
they will leave by themselves. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, essentially they are proving to you, or have proved to you, that they're not the right person for the job. And again, there can be so many different reasons, but move on from them sooner than later, because your overhead will drag on your cash flow.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. So we prepare for what wants to happen in the future.
Exactly. And those are the first 3 of the 6 strategies. So next week we're going to talk about the other 3 preparation steps that you can take. And if you'd like to schedule your strategy call today, find out how we can help you prepare and prosper in a recessionary housing market, go ahead and click that link right below this video, and we'd be happy to do that. So for my brothers and sisters in Christ, may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all. We'll see you next time on Conversations That Convert.